Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys again so much for being here on this Wednesday night. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to WDWNT TV and give us a like so that more people can find this video. And my good friend Patrick Hackett, the
Hey, what's
Hackett
going
is
on?
back.
I finally
Uh,
have a hat that matches what's happening today. I'm very excited about that.
wait. What is your hat that matches what's happening today?
Oh, it's new Asgard tours.
Oh,
Yeah.
how does that, we're
Well, I mean,
reviewing
I
Ant-Man. You knew that, right?
really no.
I'm
I thought we
sorry,
were
dude.
doing
Like
Love and
the
Thunder. Oh
Guardians
my
and
god,
the
again!
thing. Oh, dude, I am so sorry. I need to be more clear about what we're doing. I hope you're ready to do it.
I'm ready.
The Ant-Man movie is coming out, the third one, Quantumania, on the 17th of February. So we thought we would talk a little bit about the one that brung him to the dance, Ant-Man
Hmm.
from 2015. Stars Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly. You know what? There was talk at the time this came out. I think this is when the conversation really started happening. Is we have all these Marvel movies, and they all seem to fit into their own genre. Like whether it's more of a
Yeah,
science fiction-y thing, or whether it's a like a Winter Soldier type of like an espionage movie. And this one, kind of to me, falls in line with a comedy a little bit. And maybe I'm just giving it that because it's got Paul Rudd in it. Do you feel like it's a
I think
comedy
Michael
or?
Pena really brings the comedy with this. But this is a heist movie. This is, it's your classic Ocean's 11. Get the team together and pull off a heist. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's the genre it really fits in, and it feels like one of the Ocean's movies. I'm not talking about the classics, obviously. I'm talking about the Clooney version. But yeah,
No, you're right. You're right. And so when it starts out, uh, uh, Scott Lang is in jail. Now, if you're a huge comic book fan, you know that Hank Pym was Ant Man, and then Scott Lang was second edition Ant Man. And so we see both generations in this one. When actually the movie first starts out, it's in 1989, and it's at what will be the Shield headquarters, which is later going to be known as basically a dumpster fire as they figure out things in Winter Soldier. But at that time, they're still building it. So that's kind of neat. Is they take something that we've already seen and they go back to the beginning of it, and then in doing that, we're introduced to Peggy Carter and
yeah.
Howard Stark and Hank Pym all working together, and they have to age Peggy, but they have to use technology to make Hank look younger. And it's just kind of like it's this weird mix of like one generation meeting the other. And I think they do a pretty good job with it. I mean, this to me puts this smack dab into this universe.
The de aging on this is a lot better than a lot of other ones that we've seen. I think they did a really great job. Uh, I texted you immediately because I was like, wait a minute, this movie starts with Agent Carter. I
Yeah.
completely forgot that, but it's the framing device for the whole movie. It kind of explains everything that's about to happen. So yeah, I liked it. I liked kind of where we're going with this one. I feel like this is a transitional movie for the MCU because isn't this the beginning of Phase 4?
This was the end of phase two. This was the
You
very
sure?
last movie in phase two, unless Disney Plus is lying to us. So
You might
let me
be
go ahead
correct.
and
I might have gotten, yeah, because aren't we in Phase 4 now?
yeah, we're about to start phase five.
Yeah.
Ant Man Quantumania is the beginning of phase five. Um, so yeah, it's the here's the
It's
layout,
the
and I
last
love
of Phase 2. Yeah.
right, and I love the way that that this is laid out because you can watch them in chronological order, or they break them down by the phases here, and then so here's phase two. And then if you go all the way into the phase two, here's Ant Man, and then it
Yeah.
starts with Civil War, which is also Ant Man's kind of like entry into the Avengers world because of him being Team Cap on that. So yeah, this is a transitional movie to your point because it is the end of this phase. We've already had Age of Ultron. We've already met basically the new generation of Avengers, and now we're moving into Civil War, which feels like to me, and you and I reviewed Civil War,
One of
it's
my
an
favorites.
honorary Avengers movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Civil War looms large in this one because it's right after the events of Ultron. You're talking about Sokovia. The Accords are mentioned in the post credit, so it's the events of that are really starting to build up in this, and that's where we transition from phase 2 to phase 3. And um, man, I liked this movie so much more than I remembered. I'm amped up and excited to talk about it right now.
That's true. There's so many of these movies. We're getting up to 30 of these movies plus the
I
TV
know.
shows. And so there's so much to watch, and I think I've talked about in the past that a lot of times I would make my family study if we were going to see the seventh Harry Potter movie. You got to watch 1 through 6 so we know what's going on, and that's kind of what I'm doing here by us talking about this before we go to see Quantumania. Is that this is
Yeah.
like you kind of got to revisit some of these characters and realize where they came from, because a lot of times, like Randall Park, where he shows up in WandaVision, you may like go, I don't know who this is. So, we've introduced so much of Randall Park in the second movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, that when we get into WandaVision, we know that he does the sleight of hand and things like that. In Ant-Man, this is introducing Hank and Scott and Hope, and we're learning who they are. And then you need to know so much of this movie, I think, to go into Quantumania.
I think so. Um, I'd be really interested to revisit part 2, Ant Man and the Wasp, because I don't really recall that one that well. But yeah, we need to remember who these characters are, because I imagine the motivation, especially of Ant Man as we head towards Quantumania, is really going to be at the forefront. And if you don't see this movie now, when I first saw this movie, I was not a dad, and now rewatching it with the dad lens on, man,
Oh.
it hits so much harder. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and there there is a lot of that a lot of that storyline, because this is Hank trying to rekindle something with Hope, and this is the same time as Scott's out of jail and he wants to go and be with his daughter. So, um, you're right. That is a common theme that they really kind of drive home, especially with the conversation that Scott and Hope have in the car, where he kind of finally gets it. She's like, "Why are you doing this?" She's mad at him because she's like, "Hey, you have a daughter. You should be, you should think more about her." And he's like, "That's literally all I'm thinking about here is doing this for
yeah.
my daughter." So when it starts out, obviously we said they kind of like frame it with the throwback to 1989. This thing takes place in, I think, in real time, because it gets really messy with the whole
Yes.
like the blip and all that kind of stuff. But that this is 2015 when this is happening, and Scott is getting out of prison, and they don't really talk too much about the Vista Corp heist. They just kind of like, a lot of the people who are criminals are like, mad props for you for what you did.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting to me, and I don't know if you did this, is I always hate that there's never enough special features on Disney Plus. This one has special features, and if you dive into
I
there,
did.
there
Yeah.
there is footage, security camera footage of the VistaCorp heist.
Oh man. See,
Yes.
I never do that. I never go to special features, and you're always telling me to. I should have. That's really cool.
Yeah, and so there's that, and then there's also, which again makes this world so connected, is that there is an interview with Christine Everhart, who's the one who comes up to Tony Stark in Iron Man, and
Mm.
she's a reporter. She is now doing sort of like a hard hitting news show, and she is interviewing Scott Lang in prison just before he comes out of prison, and again talking about the Vista Core heist. So the basic gist of that was that, they say how he got fired because he was trying to blow the whistle on this company, and then he sneaks into the owner's house and he transfers all these funds back to the people that the company had stolen them from, and then he takes his car and he sinks it into the pool. And they kind of talk about that as Michael Pena is introducing him to his crew, and he's like, "Why are you talking me up like this and telling my life story? I told you I'm out." But he's like, "Oh, and you threw that guy's car in the water or in his pool." They show that in the security footage. It's really funny. So if you get a chance, go check that out. But I didn't realize like how little I knew about why he was in prison. They just start that he's in prison and he's
In a
getting his,
fight.
yeah, he's getting
Yeah.
his butt beat, and you don't know why, and then you find out some prison ritual for when people leave, and he's like, "You guys have the strangest like goodbye rituals," and then he comes out, and his cellie, played by Michael Pena, is man, you mentioned like he brings the comedy.
Oh God.
I would watch a movie just about him.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have said that. If before every Marvel movie you had Michael Pena in character reviewing all of the events that happened before we got to this point, it would be amazing. So this scene, I actually got some trivia about this. It's really funny. He was supposed to arrive with a cell phone over his head, playing Peter Gabriel in Your Eyes. You know, to go, oh my God, the say anything, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, to do the classic say anything move, but the rights of the song cost too much.
Oh wow. Peter Gabriel wouldn't
So
pony up the rights to that song.
he's just defended him with a sledgehammer. He's
Well,
real big time.
oh no, 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 no. Wow, that'll shock the monkey. Anyway,
Oh,
they have Luis is my wife and I were watching this and she's like he's like the whole thing for her, like the whole him telling the story. And a
yeah,
lot of times when something goes well, like in the movie Ted, Mark Wahlberg starts shooting off names in the first one, and in Ted 2 they do the same thing because it was such a big hit in the first one. When something goes that well, they usually bring it back in the second one, and they brought it back at the end of this one, and it's still held up to me. Like, like he's
yeah,
telling the story, and they're like when he first starts telling the story, and Paul Rudd's character Scott goes, these are not the relevant, don't tell me these details, like, I mean, in perfect Paul Rudd delivery.
I don't like reds, but it had a rosé that saved the day. I was like, that's amazing. And the way he
Yeah.
talks about art in the beginning of the first story is just the depth of character that they had, that he could have just been a one-dimensional buddy, and they did.
And the fact that he's like narrating other people doing it, and that must have been
Yeah.
so fun for these other people to mouth the words. And he's like, "Yo,
Yeah.
that safe is mad hard to break into," and it's just like, man, that's my favorite. It just really is a standout, and his timing on it is what makes me feel like it's really kind of a comedy. But that's
Yeah.
just, and it's probably so effortless to do, but it's such a funny device. So big fan of that one. Ti being in this one is kind of a trip because of him being
Yeah.
a rapper and the fact that he's just Dave.
Yeah.
That is funny to me too. Judy Greer's in everything.
Okay, but how do you have Judy Greer and give her nothing to do?
Well, I mean, she's a little bit bigger
No.
deal in the second. No?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a bigger deal, but you gotta give Judy Greer some stuff. That she is one of the funniest people in the world. Her deliveries are fantastic. I forgot that she was in this, and I was delighted to see her again.
And Bobby Cannavale as
Oh,
the stepfather is so good in this one. The first time I ever
so
saw him
good.
was on Will and Grace. He played like Will's like boyfriend, and I in this movie he is so good at this role because he's playing a cop. I think he was a cop on that show, as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it. But he plays this cop who's also the stepdad, and he just does such a good job too. I was saying this tonight, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. And it was when Michael Douglas was delivering one of his speeches, and he was like yelling at Hope, like, "No, you're not going in." I was like, I feel like the casting that has been done for the entire MCU is so incredibly on point and underrated.
I
Because
had
these are,
this same exact thought watching this.
why this?
I don't know, but have they made a misstep in casting anywhere? And then I was thinking, even in the substitution that they made, like Terrence Howard's fantastic and Don Cheadle's great. You had a situation that
Ed
that
Norton and Mark Ruffalo.
yeah, fantastic. Ed Norton, but that's
That wasn't
I
Marvel.
don't
That
know.
wasn't MCU's fault.
Yeah, I was gonna say they always include that in the MCU, and there have been references to it. It doesn't feel like it is, right? It doesn't feel like it's part of it.
It's really the first time. I mean, it's honestly the
Yeah,
first time because it's the second movie. It's the first time we link them together because at the end, Robert Downey Jr. walks in as Tony Stark, talks to Ross, and he's like, "We're putting together a team." That's the first link because it's the second movie to anything else. So no, I do think
yeah,
it's important, but the stuff that takes place in it is vital too because they don't retell the Hulk story like the incredible like the in the Hulk movie. that's the
Yeah.
Ang Lee one. They
Yep.
tell the whole story again, and in this one they tell the whole story again. But once we meet Mark Ruffalo and the rest of the stuff, and obviously because of Universal rights, they can't still make a standalone Hulk movie. But the fact that we don't have to go back to his origin story because this one
Thankfully.
kind of
Yeah.
told it, and Betty and the whole deal there. So we've already had that happen. I think it is important to be there, but is it skippable? Yeah, and forgettable probably. But here's a one casting misstep that I may
All
throw
right.
out at you, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong. And I don't mean to hate on her, but Brie Larson. I mean, is that what that character needed? Is that why? Because a lot of people kind of
I think that's what it is, because she has tremendous range as an actor. I
okay,
think that this is the direction she's getting for the character. Um,
okay,
kind
that's
of the
fair.
fish out of water, very stoic. She's kind of playing like the Superman proxy in Marvel at this point in time, because we haven't used any of the other Superman proxy. But really, who wants Sentry? I mean, I don't want Sentry. I don't want Wonder Man. Like, eh.
But again, I mean, characters like the Colby Smulders,
Yes,
who plays Maria Hill.
I believe her
I,
name
I
is
was
Robin Scherbatsky.
Yeah, I was about to say I was such a huge fan of How I Met Your Mother that you would think I couldn't get lost in her being Maria Hill, but I can. And that's the thing too with most of this casting is that you don't feel like it's, the guy from Anchorman playing Ant-Man. It
No,
feels like
no,
this is
that
Scott
is
Lang.
Ant-Man Scott Lang. Yeah, 100%, a hundred
So I
percent.
feel like not only is the casting there, but also that they direct them well enough to become the characters, and it's across the board, and it's so well done because no
And
one else is Tony Stark.
no, no, they will have to go. I'm glad like Riri Williams is getting as
Ironheart.
she's not Iron Man, but she's Ironheart. And we're not going to go to another Iron Man. We can't do that. It's not right. Um, but let's take what we're talking about in the perfection that Marvel has done with this casting. Yes, direction. Yes, because we're talking about the one person we feel might not fit the mold is a little bit with Brie Larson. I think a lot of that is directing. And let's look at Star Wars and see how the direction of the final third trilogy is so all over the place that there's not a cohesive story, and it blows all that really great casting, because there's fantastic casting in the last of the Skywalker trilogy, and it just
I,
gets muddled, and this is what Marvel does so well.
I'll do you one better. Is that I
Mm,
buy Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, but as
mhm.
Mace Windu, that's Samuel L. Jackson with a lightsaber.
100%. That's a fantastic point.
Yeah,
Fantastic point.
and that's not the ones you're talking about. This is still prequels we're talking
No,
about.
yeah, no, that makes
But
sense though. I completely feel that.
but I that was something that stood out to me, and it was that scene with Michael Douglas when he is having that very great acting moment with Evangeline Lilly, and he's just like, no, you're not going to do that, and he doesn't, he's got that motivation behind him that's like, I know why. I'm not going to let you do this, but you don't know why, and you think it's unfair. And the acting between the two of them was just so well
Yeah.
done that I was just like, who cast this? Who said, who we need as Hank Pym? Michael Douglas. I mean, it was just really well done. That, and I know I'm going off on casting, but I just think that
No,
from the
no.
beginning, it
That's why we're
feels like
here.
it's really
This
good.
isn't
Yeah,
shallow in the minus, baby. This is deep in the plus.
you tell it, boy. So here's the thing: is with the casting part, and this has nothing to do with Ant-Man, and then I'll stop.
Yeah.
Is that I feel like Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin was great until he was not the Mandarin, he was Trevor. Like I think that was kind of amazing what they did with him. Everybody else, I don't know. I like the things that they do with these characters and the acting of these people and the caliber they get for comic book movies. Who would have thought that the comic book genre would be the one that every actor is like, I want to be in the MCU. I want to be part of the new DC universe. Like I was like, they're just this is a big deal now.
Yeah. it's a legacy movie. You know, our last episode we talked to Paco from Herbie Goes Bananas. Joaquin was amazing, and that's a legacy role. That's a role that ties you to something for the rest of your life and the rest of your career. Michael Douglas is like, why did you take this? You're Michael freaking Douglas. You know, you're an esteemed actor. He's like, I did this for my kids and my grandkids so they can point to something that's not an R-rated thriller that I did and say, hey, that's my dad, that's my granddad. And, you know, if he takes them to Disneyland, even though they might be trying to be low key, you're going to see the people out of the corner of their eye and like, that's Hank Pym.
Yeah. Speaking of Michael Douglas, at least we've talked about What If a little bit. I know when we did our recap show of the Marvel series, we talked about the What If series. He was one of the ones that I wouldn't have expected to come back and reprise his role, and he did.
Yeah.
Like, great. Like that shows, I mean, that gives me so much more admiration for him that he would go back and do something that was so small. And yet it made all the difference that it was actually him doing the voice of Yellowjacket. So, all right. So when this movie picks up and he's met up with his cellie, Lewis, and they go back to his apartment and they're headed back, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you know, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be able to get a great job because I have this huge degree and everything's great." And then he says, "Welcome to Baskin Robbins." That again, the comedy, the timing of it, where he's like, "I'm going to be able to get any job I want. Welcome to Baskin Robbins."
Yeah.
And the guy, and I don't know his name, but he was on
he's that guy.
Superstore. Yeah, he was on Superstore. He was in Son of Zorn. He's standing there. He's like, "Yeah, give me let me get a burger." And then he's like, "What's Baskin Robbins? We don't have. Well, just how about a hot pretzel?" No, it's dude. We have ice cream. He's like, "Okay, just whatever's hot and fresh." I mean, just like, again, it's funny. Like, I know it's a heist movie, but I love so much of the comedy in this one, more so than I think any other. Maybe that's what makes it rewatchable. That and the runtime. It's only 2 hours, as opposed to the 3 hours of some of the movies, or the 16 hours of Avatar: The Way of Water. So,
I'm not covering that one.
Yeah, right. I know you hate Avatar, dude.
No, thank you.
I still haven't seen it, by the way. I want to go see
either.
it, but I can't find anybody that will go with me. Now I know why you haven't. You don't want to.
No, correct.
But anyway, so then he's at Baskin Robbins, and he gets found out that he's not really who he says he was, and then he gets fired. And the guy's like, "Pick up a mango slushie on your way out. I'll turn my head the other way," and just, I don't know. Again, it's so funny. And then when he gets back, he's like, "All right, I'm in. Let's do the heist." And then he hears the story from Michael Pena, and then they find out that there's a vault. I feel like a guy who is trying to make sure he doesn't go back to prison would want to know what was in the vault before he agreed to do such a complicated job.
I think they kind of like hand wave over that, but they're saying, you know, it's an old white guy's fault. You know, it's going to be good stuff in there. Like, all right, yeah, I guess so.
I guess so. I don't know. So they do this sort of mini heist, and they go through and they break in and they get what is the Ant-Man suit, or what he calls a motorcycle outfit. And then he takes it back and decides to put it on, and it's got buttons on it, and he's not really sure what to do. And then he shrinks down and hears Hank's voice, and now he's being Ant-Man for the first time. From a cinematography point of view, they did an amazing job.
Yes.
Was shrinking us down.
They took a lot of influence from other movies that done shrinking things, and also from like a lot of the Disney attractions, you know, Journey to Inner Space, through Inner Space. You can feel all that like history of like the shrinking stuff in there. You can see kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. They wanted to get Rick Moranis for a cameo in this. Unfortunately, this is the time that he was not doing any acting, but yeah, you can see the influences in here a lot. It's really great to see.
Yeah, and I honestly, I mean, it's really cool, the effects that they have, and again, him falling through the floor and the things that would happen to him if he was actually shrinking, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I just thought that was a really well done, well put together thing. Let's talk for a second about Cassie Lang, because it's a little bit like, I don't know. Is it cruel or is it sad that because they wrote in the whole thing about the blip that she doesn't get to be Cassie anymore? Because I think
She's
she did
such a
an
cutie.
amazing job. She was really good
Her
in this role.
her delivery. Are you going to look for my daddy? Yes. Hope you
Hope you
don't
don't
find
catch
him.
him.
Yeah.
Yep. And then like this little rabbit that she gets in, it's ugly. She's like, ew, it's ugly. I love it. Like she
Yeah.
does a really good job with this role, and just cute as a button. Like, I mean, she's got the whole missing teeth thing happening, and just like, it's just
Yeah.
really like,
Big doe
she's
eyes. Yeah.
yeah, she's Cassie until she's not.
Yep. That's how that works.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't guess you count that as recasting since she you know was grown up.
Yeah. Yeah. She was in the background of Endgame in one of the scenes. So it's not
Oh
like
yeah.
they kind of kicked her to the curb, but you're right, because of the way everything worked, they needed someone who aged differently.
Yeah. So when we see Hank for the first time, he's going to uh, Pym Industries. Is that what it's called?
I think it's Pym
Um,
Industries, Pym Technology, something like that.
Pym Tech. Okay. So he's going to his old place, and then we're starting to unravel a little bit of the story that his daughter Hope is a little bit estranged from him. Pym Technologies. And he goes in and he's like, the guy's like ID, and he's like, well, that suffice. And there's a picture of him as the founder up on the wall, and then he meets up with Darren Cross, who you just know from his look is just not a nice guy.
All right. So I will say I had a problem here.
Okay, talk to me.
All right. So this is Obadiah Stane. It's literally like the exact same caricature. The look is the same, the motivation is very similar, and it's just like we've done this one, guys. We've done this already. But I guess they needed somebody to kind of be the foil in this situation.
Are you doing that? Are you saying that because he's bald?
I'm saying it because he's a bald capitalist that is trying to oh, hey there, Bobby. Who is trying to actually that fits really well. Who's trying to capitalize on someone else's work and monetize things that probably shouldn't be monetized that much. I
Uh,
thought for a while it was like Bezos, like it was kind of a stand-in for Bezos, but no, it feels very similar to Obadiah.
Well, the thing that gets me with this one is like he's got this model in this room that he's brought Hank into, and it has cross technologies on the building where he's taken basically Hank's name off and put his name on, and he kind of gives him the side eye about it, like, you see that? I'm about to do
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, but it's one of these flawed characters where like to me, you know why he's the bad guy. They've told you why he's the bad guy, but you kind of hate his motivation for being the bad guy. Oh,
It's
you
like
wouldn't let me have everything, so I'm mad.
Nate in Ted Lasso.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Very similar.
Yep.
Good, good,
Yep.
good pull.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hate Nate now. But
Everyone
yeah,
does. Spoilers.
yeah, yeah. That's one of those things where you kind of have to hate him. But the fact that he's kind of like, okay, Hank gave me everything, except this one thing, and you were hiding things from me, and therefore I'm going to overthrow you in this company. And I guess that's what a bad guy does. But it's just like his motivation seems flawed to me in the fact that it's not like, hey, you killed my mom, or whatever. It's like, hey, you had the keys to the kingdom and you wouldn't give them to me.
You
So
you
I'm taking
didn't
them.
trust me enough, and we see the insane jealousy over Scott. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, we're definitely supposed to get Zoolander vibes from that model, right?
I don't think so, but okay.
I feel like it's a bit intentional. Here's my thing with this. Are we supposed to believe that he and Hope had a romantic relationship? Because it feels like at times we were supposed to buy into that, and at other times it's just not there. Did you get any of that?
Yeah, I don't know that it ever occurred to me whether there was some kind of. I mean, I feel like that there's the potential there, but that there is not a history. That's what I have there. Is that maybe that's
Okay.
something that he wants, and maybe she's playing it pretty close to the vest because she wants to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that he buys her being there the whole time. So maybe there's something that could happen, but I don't think there's a history.
Okay.
The
I
history
think that's a pretty good
obviously
read.
is thank you. The history of it is obviously that Hope was angry at her dad because her dad wouldn't say what happened to her mom, and she pushed him away, and he was trying to protect her, and then that led to her being the person on the board that ousted him, and now he's not part of his own company, which made them even more estranged. But then she finds out what Darren's up to and getting close to recreating the Pym particle that will allow him to create super soldiers that can. It's always about soldiers, isn't it? That can shrink down to the
Well,
size of an ant.
I mean, like those first three phases, that's kind of the driving force. We talk about how Tony Stark gets out in the desert and has to build the Iron Man suit. We talk about the Jericho missiles. I mean, it is very much about the military global industrial complex.
Ooh,
You know,
you're using big words.
yeah,
I like it. I'm impressed.
yeah, it's big brain up here.
I like how they make things more tech in the MCU. Like these are real world possibilities, like this Yellowjacket suit. Although it seems superfluous that there's these arms on it to make it look like a Yellowjacket. Like I feel like the Ant-Man thing is because the helmet looks like an ant and he gets to the size of an ant. This one looks like
Mm-hmm.
let's make it look like a Yellowjacket because you put some weird arm stingers on the outside of it. I don't know.
Well, now new Disney property Futurama. When the kids take over the company and they put stickers on the delivery ship and go, "Why did you do that?" Because I'm 12. It's they think it looks cool. They're functional. They are functional, but it definitely feels to be you came up with the name first and then worked the design into it. Then, oh hey, this kind of looks like a yellow jacket.
Right. Um, so we've learned what Darren's motivation is. Then we learn that Hope. That at this point we learn that Hope and Hank are in on it, whereas they're playing the estranged father and daughter right now. But the truth is that they're really allied to try to overthrow whatever Darren Cross is doing or try to keep him from doing this because they both realize how dangerous it can be for this to be in the wrong hands. And so they make mention to the fact when they're explaining the suit to Scott that the helmet is important because otherwise you could basically go crazy, and that Darren was already a few like fries short of a Happy Meal. So when they go into to kind of do all this, they explain everything so well without doing it in exposition. They show this video that
Yes.
shows here's the Ant-Man and here's the Shield video like of the Ant-Man and it was a myth, and now here's what I'm up to because he's doing the pitch to a group of people. So it's really, I think that, and then after that you learn about the relationship with Hope and Hank and what they're trying to do, and then he's like, I got a guy. Then they cut to Scott Lang using the suit, and and so on and so forth. So I feel like it was really well executed, and they told me the story without
Yes.
insulting my intelligence.
I feel like a lot of that is from the original Edgar Wright version of the film. Edgar Wright worked on it for a really long time and ultimately had creative differences with Disney. There was a lot of that going around. I don't know if that is still the Ike Perlmutter time. I think it is. And there was a lot of issues going on there between Disney brass and the directors and Marvel. So he walked off. Edgar Wright's a fantastic writer, fantastic director, and Peyton Reed came in and did a really great job finishing this movie. But if you're familiar with like the Cornetto trilogy from Edgar Wright, you know some of his tricks that he uses in his directing, some of like his signature moves, and a lot of that telling exposition in flashback, flash forward, and not insulting your intelligence while giving you the information you need is definitely part of what he does when making films.
By the way, you know what Peyton also directed?
What?
Herbie Fully Loaded.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh
we just
man, I
talked
guess
about
I'm the Peyton Reed correspondent now too.
yeah. Yep. I was noticing that when we were doing all of our research for Herbie Goes Bananas, I was like, well, Peyton did this. Is there some connection we can make to Ant-Man? And there's like 6 degrees of separation.
There should have been a
Uh,
love bug in this. They should have worked Herbie in. Ant-Man, Love Bug, San Francisco. I mean, come on. Come on.
oh, there were plenty of bugs.
There
You know
were.
what? I
I did
think
not
that they
like
did.
that.
Oh, really? You got a bug thing?
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, but it's that what's it called, like para the repeating patterns that like it makes you feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I don't like that. Mm-mm. I like the
It
gimmick. I think it's really cool, but I did not like the visual of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that in this they lean more into that part of the character and the hero. They're really explaining all of his powers to us, which seem disjointed, right? Like the fact that he is able to shrink to the size of an ant, but he also talks to ants. So he's kind of got like a Doctor Doolittle thing, but also a incredible shrinking man thing.
Well, and
I
Hope
don't know.
also has the ability to talk to ants. I don't know if that's a power or if it's something like that you work on, because they showed him like honing that skill.
Right?
Like,
No,
is
it's
are
not.
they
It's not.
telling us that's inside all of us?
No, no, it's not a power in like inherent in him, but it is one of the gifts or powers that Ant Man has, is because he has that little thing that he puts on his ear, and they
Yeah.
explain it again. I love how they explain it in modern time, that that's how it's working, is that he's using that to communicate with the ants and make him do what they want to do. But it just seems like too many cool powers. Like he has the power, like he's a little overpowered. He has the power to get huge. He has the power to get small. He can
Does not
go
have the power to get
subatomic.
huge yet.
But I'm just saying in general. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
he doesn't do that till Civil War.
Yep.
Um, but anyway, it's a lot, and they explain it all very well. I think is my point, is what he can do, because I think this is one of those movies you go to see Iron Man, you're like, I get what Iron Man is.
Yeah.
Thor, probably same thing, even though you may not know all the details when you first saw it. This one was one that I think most people that aren't comic book people probably didn't know
Yes.
as well.
Well, definitely. I don't think Ant-Man's one of the well-known. I mean, that's why we get a cameo from Garrett Morris in there, because he's one of the only people who's ever portrayed Ant-Man in anything remotely like known before. When he did it at a superhero Disney party on an episode of SNL. Being a comic book reader, I was shocked that they went with Ant-Man, because neither Scott Lang nor Hank Pym are good people. They are not good people in the comic books. Like
Yeah.
really, really bad people.
Yeah.
Like
No, I agree. I agree.
yeah.
Here's, by the way, Garrett Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great, a great cameo. First of all, love me some
Yeah.
Garrett Morris, so good.
Absolutely.
But that is a great cameo to have in this movie.
Should have been in
Somebody
Herbie the
went
Love
to
Bug.
it should have been Herbie. Somebody went to great care to make sure that this was a fan service sort of a situation. So then they we've learned it now, is that Hank wants to stop Darren. Darren is getting very
Yep.
close to being able to use particles to shrink people. He does the thing where he's in the bathroom and he shrinks the guy after taking his napkin, shrinks the guy into a puddle of goo, and then scrapes the goo off the floor and throws it in the toilet. I'm like, what the perfect murder.
How evil. We don't really get like a whole lot of like really evil, other than their motivation. His motivation is evil. There is nothing good about him. There's nothing redeeming. He's just doing bad, and that is a messed up scene. That, like, it caught me off guard because it doesn't fit the vibe of the film until he scoops him up and tosses him, and it was just like, oh, he just ruthlessly killed somebody, and he's definitely done this before and plans to do it again, as we see.
Yep. Did you? I feel like I read this at some point. Is
Hmm?
that Paul Rudd? I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, that he worked out to become this superhero, and that like
Yep,
they didn't plan on him to do that.
correct.
That
That
is that
is,
right?
I don't know if that's a true story, but they had to make adjustments to his suit because Paul Rudd got too swole. He's just in there being a big old thick daddy, out there lifting weights. That's right. I'm just throwing every outdated reference I could to try and get more kids to be watching this. Come on,
A
Gen
big
Z.
old.
We
A,
we can do a shorter one. We'll do like a TikTok review. Should we try that, Rob?
yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, we'll
Yeah.
work on that.
Yeah, he was swole, and yeah.
Yeah.
So when they put all this together, um, for the heist that they're going to do, like
Yeah.
they're getting him, they've gotten him to break in, so they know what he can do, almost like an audition. They get him out of jail. They train him. They teach him how to talk to the ants. They've got this
Great
plan all
training
set up.
montages. Really
Right.
great training
You're the
montages.
best around.
Yeah.
Eye of the tiger, baby. So when they put all that together and they are now going to do this heist, in between the time or in this time they decide to all just break down because Hope's mad at everybody, and Dad's not being forthright about what happened to Mom, and Scott, she doesn't like Scott, and all this stuff, and they have this heart to heart in the car, like we talked about the daughter thing.
Yep.
And then they come back in, and Hank goes, "Okay, it's finally time to tell you what happened to your mom. She was also a superhero. I lost her. That's why I don't want to lose you." Then he flashes back to the time when he ended up losing her, and his regulator was stuck, and she could turn hers off and didn't hesitate. At this time, we didn't know what
No.
actress was going to be playing the Wasp, I assume, because it's very,
No.
yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah, we did not know that it was going to be Michelle Pfeiffer, from in the second movie. So it was really neat to see that story and them tell it with us meeting her, but not really meeting her.
Yeah. Really good storytelling.
Yeah, they tend to do that, don't they? So they put together this idea. They decide that because Darren's onto them, that he's up in security, so they need to up their crew, and they bring in Michael Pena and those guys to help put this thing together. Which again is great because more Michael Pena, the better, right?
Oh God, him punching people out was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and then caring enough to make sure someone did not get blown up. So that was nice of him.
That is true.
They're
But
they're
just
they're thieves. They're cat burglars. They're not robbers.
yeah. But to your point, like let's have a whole Luis movie. Like let's just.
Yeah.
I would totally.
Let's
I would
get.
totally watch it.
I got it. Let's get Luis, Kat Dennings' character, and Randall Park's character together. Why don't we just do like a sitcom with them? They're all hard on their luck, and they have to live somewhere. Occasionally, they try and get one of their superhero friends to help them with the rent, like maybe Ant-Man signs autographs or something. The last couple episodes, I've just been full of ideas that I need to stop giving away for free. I need to get out there in front of Feige. I need to, talk to my buddy Mr. Iger. I feel like I'm on a much better page with the Walt Disney Company than I was a few months ago. I feel like our relationships improved.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Hey, so let me stop here and just
Oh
remind
no.
everybody that they should like if they have not already, subscribe if they have not already, because I want to ask you some questions. Only because I know this is your favorite part of any Deep in the Plus we do. Um, no, you love it. You love it. You love it. You love it. It's
Come
fine.
on, let's go.
Um, so I only have a couple for you
All right,
here.
good. Because I do not remember anything right now.
You just
Just
watched
went,
it.
Shoop. I did. Not 24
Okay.
hours ago. I just watched it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
So when Paul Rudd or Scott Lang is working at the Baskin Robbins,
Yep.
he has a name tag on.
Yep.
What's the name on the name tag?
It's one of Paul Rudd's kids. The coworker and the name tag he used was Paul Rudd's kids. They have not out their names, but their names that have not been used a ton. Harley? It's not Harley. That's Kevin Smith's daughter. Go ahead, tell me.
Jack.
Jack.
It's like handwritten in Jack.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea is that Scott doesn't want to give away that he is an ex-con, so he's probably gotten hired under false pretenses.
In my real life job, I do the hiring for my company. That is really, really hard to get hired under a fake name. Like there's work involved in that.
Okay. But I love that that he's like, yeah, Baskin Robbins always finds out. Like I love that there's this mythology of Baskin
back.
Robbins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Baskin Robbins always finds out. Oh, did you get fired? Baskin Robbins always finds out.
The only thing that would have made it better if they made reference to Baskin Robbins baseball nut ice cream, which is a flavor I know about for I don't know why.
Gotcha. After he
Yep.
fires him, the manager says, "On your way out, you can grab what?" I think I've actually said it already.
Yeah, it's like a mango freeze or something. Something mango freeze. Yeah.
Mango fruit blast. Close enough. Yeah,
Mango fruit
mango fruit blast.
blast.
Um, then he's when he's in jail before he gets out. There's a ritual that he has to fight somebody. What's the guy's name he fights?
Peachy.
Okay, all right. So you knew that one. Did you know I was going to ask you that one?
No, it's a really silly name, and I caught. Well, I'm always looking in the background to see like, are they hiding other Marvel characters? Because if you talk about Black Widow, they say that the first mutant in the MCU is actually in Black Widow, the guy who arm wrestles Red Guardian. Um, I forget his mutant name. It's like the Latin name for bear.
John.
No, it's like Ursa something. There's a superhero
Oh,
name. All right, back to the
okay.
trivia. The torment.
So when he gets fired from Baskin Robbins and he heads back to the house or the apartment over the bodega, the bodega has a cola sponsor. Who is the cola sponsor of the bodega?
I have not a clue. And
Pepsi.
that's a fantastic question. It's Pepsi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
it's on a corner and there's a Pepsi logo on either side of the sign. You know how they do the signs where like I'm sure it's some kind of co-op money where like Pepsi's like I'll give you the sign if you put our thing on it. So yeah, it's Pepsi. When he gets back into the apartment, Luis is making something. What's he cooking?
Pancakes? Waffles?
Waffles. Yep. He's making waffles. And one last thing, because I thought this was interesting. When he goes to blow the safe at Hank's place, the safe says where it's from.
Sure does.
Do you remember where it's from?
It's from where Peyton Reed is from.
Where is that?
So it's Peyton Reed's hometown, where Peyton Reed grew up. Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Somewhere Raleigh, North Carolina.
There it is. It's in Raleigh. Yes.
No.
I was gonna try to pull it up so I could go. Nope, that's not what it is. But yeah, it's Raleigh because that's me. So I thought that was kind of cool,
man.
What's that?
I said, don't dox yourself, man. It's bad enough everyone knew where your apartment was in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm right across the street from the Nashville Sounds. Wait, what? It's fine. We're all fine. So thanks for playing that with me, buddy. I appreciate you having a good.
That was a good one. I'm glad I got to reach for a couple of those.
Yeah,
Peachy,
I
took
got
note
that.
of the
numbers.
I was like, they're names, but they're like older names. I almost wanted to say Wayne. It's both of Paul Rudd's kids are the names.
Gotcha.
In Baskin Robbins. Yeah.
So they do the heist and they think that they've got Darren dead to rights, but then they find out that maybe he was a couple steps ahead of them, and so now they're like panicking to get out, and they do the scene with the tank.
Yes.
Love the scene with the tank.
Fantastic scene.
I don't know why. I
don't either, because they definitely foreshadow it, because you get that close up the first time he enters the building and you see it there. And you're like, huh, that's Chekhov's tank now. Did you think the whole time that Cross was going to be a step ahead of them?
No.
Neither did I. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that I thought they were going to get away with it and then have to deal with Cross, who is coming back for it. Maybe he had another one. But I liked that the villain was smart enough to realize what was going on.
Well, and it's like,
that.
Yeah. And I love the keychain like falling after it.
Yeah, the keychain just man, so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I mean, at that point, there's where they don't get away with it. There's still a half hour left of the movie, and the reason I feel like you have to have that happen is that you need to have the Yellowjacket Ant-Man fight. I think that's why he he gets it, is that he feels confident enough in his product to go ahead and use it on himself now, even though it's basically making him crazy. So, um, and he's got an unfair advantage, just like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, when he's got she's got the unfair advantage of like she can shoot things and she can fly, and he's like, oh, I guess you have that technology now, and he's like, no, we always had that. um, so in this
Just
one,
not for
you know,
you.
yeah, and yeah, exactly, not for you. In this one, you've got that, the Yellowjacket has more powers than he does because
Yeah.
of he can fly and he can shoot things and all that. But it's a really fun little fight that they do in
Yes.
Cassie's room because they're using all
Yeah.
the toys and he's throwing the things that are making everything bigger and smaller. And Thomas the Tank Engine. Uh, that's because that's such an iconic thing is Thomas the Tank Engine. The fact that he, you know, that breaks out of the front of the house is kind of awesome.
And then start the blinking. The blinking got me every time. And then they enlarge one of the ants, who then becomes a pet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's a pretty well done thing. It's like I don't know who had the idea to have the fight be like an episode or like a mini Toy Story, but it's great. And
it's
again,
very good.
that's it's
Very,
it's
very
it's
good.
it's good, but it's also funny, which again goes back to the whole like it's sort of a comedy sort of a situation.
Yep.
Plus the
Yeah.
the like Ti and gang, they're all very funny too. The one thing I skipped
Ti, when
over
he
was
steals the cop car, is so good. We kind of glossed over that part. He just,
yeah.
oh man, it's honestly, it's a movie of moments. I think, like, there's a lot of movies that when you look and you take the whole picture, and there's a lot of films that you don't get the whole thing until you get the whole thing. And this one is so many like moments built on each other. It feels, it almost feels like a television show that you're binge watching versus a movie, if that makes sense, because it feels like every 20 minutes or so you get like another moment that really shines. It really speaks volumes to the way Marvel's filmmaking has just evolved, and how we can say that there's a genre of superhero movies, but they're all stories that are being told in another way. Like, this is a heist movie. It's also a buddy comedy. Um, there's a lot here, and I don't know if we ever knew comic book movies would get here. I think with Spider-Man 2, maybe we saw some of the potential, but I mean, it's genuinely the some of the best made films. I'm waiting until one of these gets like a legitimate Academy Award. It was nice to see Angelica Houston get a Golden Globe for Black Panther as the first award Marvel won. So for an acting award, I'm waiting because these performances deserve it.
Yeah. One of the other things you're talking about moments is this hero moment that Scott has for with Cassie, where
Yes,
he's coming back out of the quantum realm and he's there and does the whole like almost the hero pose for his daughter,
he hits
and
that
then
pose so many times, and all I could keep thinking of was Yelena Belova. You're such a
oh,
poser.
and
Yeah.
the
Um.
superposer of the poses. Yeah.
Oh man, this uh, did not expect this to hit the way it did.
Oh yeah.
Just
Okay.
yeah, yep. I
Okay.
was
All the
like,
dad feels.
yep. That whole scene, I'm like, they better protect his daughter, because I can't handle that. You need to make sure that little girl is safe. Protect her at all costs.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that we also glossed over was the fact that he runs into an Avenger, Anthony Mackie's the Falcon,
Mm.
and that is a great exchange too. That's again very funny. The whole fight that they
Yeah.
have because he's like shrinking, getting bigger, shrinking, getting bigger. He's using all the things that he's learned from Hank, and then in the end, he ends up getting the piece that he was sent in for. So. And then when they bring him back into Civil War, and he's like, yeah, I kicked his butt, and he's like, oh, it was a nice audition, but it's never gonna happen again. Like that
It is
exchange that they
very
have, that
important to me
camaraderie.
that you don't tell Cap that this happened.
Yes, it was really good. So anything else that we missed from this one? Oh, by the way, at that moment when they show they're doing this heist, it's an old Stark warehouse, and Hank doesn't realize that Tony's taking it over to be the new Avengers campus, and that when they see the campus for the first time, and you hear the faint music, like those music cues
Yeah.
are so amazing when they do them, and that gives me
I
the feels too.
It literally happened as I walked onto Avengers Campus. Like that exact sting
Dun,
of the score
dun,
hit,
dun,
and like it just
dun,
everything was in my throat. I'm like, oh
dun,
my god, I'm
dun,
here.
dun.
Yeah, it's easy to gloss over some stuff with this because it's a rapid movie. It does not feel that 2 hours. There's sometimes we watch a movie and I'm like, oh my god, when will this end? And this isn't like that. I wanted more, and then I remembered there is more, but I don't remember liking it that much.
What you mean, the second movie?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I guess I get that. I mean, it's definitely a different vibe with that one because they're, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, in the
yeah,
second movie, and I've said this before, you always have to break what ended well with the first movie, and so everything got screwed up because he went to fight with Cap in Civil War and was considered, it was considered treason. So now he's locked up in his house under house arrest. But but the stepdad and the wife, the ex-wife, are kind of like they're okay with it now because they feel like he, whatever he was doing was kind of just, and so they don't have as much of a problem with letting him hang out with Cassie. And then you've got Ray Park. I don't know. I mean, I
yeah.
think it's
We'll have to do it. That's just what we come down to. Maybe before Quantum Mania hits Deep in the Plus, we'll do Ant-Man and the Wasp.
yeah, that works. Before the movie ends, though, there's one last Michael Pena like telling the story thing, and again, it's just so good. Like the whole everybody's using his mannerisms when he's telling the story, like
Yeah,
how she kind of yeah. I mean,
we get our
again, it's so good.
cameo.
Cameo from Stan.
Yeah,
But it's really that's a really neat device that they do, and a neat way to end it up. And then of course the post credits, because all Marvel movies have post credits, we get to see that Hope will return as well. I guess that's the mid credit, right? Is Hope will return as the
that's the mid
Wasp,
credit. Is
and
Hope gets the Wasp suit.
then the end credit is the beginning of Civil War, which is really just
Yeah,
a clip out of Civil War.
it really is. It's
Sometimes there's a clip. Like, I feel like, what was the movie? Was it Shang-Chi, or was it Multiverse? No, it wasn't Multiverse of Madness. It might have been Spider-Man. There was one where the end credit was just the trailer for Multiverse of Madness. So sometimes it's a scene you'll never see again other than here, and sometimes it's like this, like it's a clip from Cap um,
yeah,
and Falcon, where he's like, well, we're gonna need some help, and he's like, I know a guy, and at least it ties back to to Ant-Man and Scott Lang.
yeah, yeah,
Um, So anyway, you and I were going to do Snow Dogs, and because it's
yeah,
winter, and I was
yeah.
like, I feel like this is a better play because we're all getting excited about Ant-Man and Quantumania. You've watched the trailer for Quantumania, haven't you, or do you not watch
Oh
trailers?
yeah. No, I watch trailers. It's weird. I treat theme park attractions differently than I treat movies. I try and go into a theme park attraction pretty blind, but man, I am getting all the information that I don't think will give me a spoiler before watching a film.
Well, so I watched this trailer, and but there are sometimes where a trailer will show me too much, and I think that the latest trailer that just dropped for this kind
Yeah.
of showed me too much.
Yep.
I mean, we're
I
getting
agree.
ready for Jonathan Majors to make a big splash in this universe. He really only got his start in Loki at the very end. Now we know he's going to be Kang the Conqueror, and he's going to be everywhere. And that's not a spoiler necessarily because we kind of know that's Phase 5. This is the Kang Dynasty. That's what we're running into with Phase 5. And it kicks off strong with this movie. Bill Murray in it. That's going to be great. I love Bill Murray. I'm glad he's kind of going to have a throw to the MCU. And I hope that it's like any of the other characters, that even though Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum, him as the game master works out great.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because we've put too much reality into the MCU with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. And so it's like, wait a minute. When are these people not the actors and are the characters here? Because we opened up a big can of worms with some Kevin Bacon.
True. Um, Yeah, it's the Grandmaster. I said Game Master.
You
But
did. I
yeah,
was just gonna let it go.
okay. Well, I'd like to be accurate. But
It's
uh,
important.
when he is the Grandmaster in that, I get lost in that. I hope that's the same thing with Bill Murray in this movie, because
Right.
I don't want you to put people in these movies just to put them in. I want them
Correct.
to feel like they belong there. So I'm hoping that's the case, because I'm a Bill Murray fan, and I'm a Marvel fan. So let's hope that does it justice. But there was another character that was shown in the trailer that I won't spoil here, that I wish wasn't in the trailer. I wanted you
Yeah.
to reveal that later. And so that they did the same thing with Namor. Like, I don't think you needed to roll out Namor ahead of time in
I
Wakanda
think
Forever.
we
You could have
all
saved that.
knew it was headed towards Namor anyway. There's very few Black Panther villains, and I'm just upset that if we're bringing in Namor and we already have Black Panther, like, give me Storm. She's tied to both of those characters. Give me Storm.
You need a new Storm, or do you want like Halle Berry, or what are we doing there?
I don't know. That's a really good question as we delve into like the multiverse of the actual films and what is what. Like, okay, so those two Sony Spider-Man films, they exist. They're out there. But what else? So Wolverine's coming into the MCU. Deadpool's coming into the MCU. What are they bringing with them? Um, there's all so many people who've played multiple characters across these series too. So
Right.
it's getting a little messy. It's getting a little messy.
Yeah, with I mean, Chris Evans doing Johnny Storm for one. That was the first one I thought, why are we doing this? And then you get into Josh Brolin doing like Cable and doing Thanos. Okay, wait, what?
Which Deadpool knows.
Yeah, true. So it's
Mm.
just all of this. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit, getting a little bit convoluted, but they seem to do a
But
good job with it.
yeah, and let's figure out a couple things here. There's a multiverse. Can we get Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan back as Johnny Storm?
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, they kind of did that uh in DC and the Crisis series that they did on the Arrowverse, where they brought in Brandon Routh, I believe, as Superman,
As
and
Superman. Yeah.
yeah, and he was already the Atom. So
Yeah.
could happen. Who knows? I don't know. I just I like this movie, but I need to know
Yeah.
the big question right now. We've talked about it. We've lost track of it and gone on to other tangents in the MCU and come back to it again, as we tend to do when it's MCU, and they're all interconnected, so it makes sense.
Hashtag it's
But
all connected.
hashtag it's all connected. But what I need to know from you right now, my friend Patrick Hackett, would you recommend this movie?
I can't even play to go with like a big lead up. Yes, absolutely. This stands alone as a character movie. There's great characters. It's a heist film. It's a buddy movie. You don't need to have any other information about the MCU to watch this. All you need to know is that there's an established superhero that he gets to fight with. That's it. None of the other MCU stuff really comes into play because that's just added dressing. That's like your croutons and your bacon bits on this delicious salad. You got a great salad here, and we add some more stuff, and the more knowledge you add, the more stuff you're putting on there. But go watch this. This is great. I will eventually revisit Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like the character. I'm hopeful. He has some great moments in other movies, but go check out Ant-Man. Do your research as you're coming up on Quantumania.
Yeah, and I mentioned this before, is I used to make all of these, like, we have to study everything kind of sweeping statements, and there's too much of the MCU to study it all. But I do think for this one movie, just this one movie, maybe you go back and watch this. Maybe you also watch Loki, if you have the time to watch that as well, and kind of catch up on the introduction of Kang there and the multiverse. But I mean, this one has a lot of heart. It's entertaining on its own. It's a good one shot, but it's also, as you said, kind of like setting the stage for what's to come in Quantumania, which to me is one of the most excited like one of the movies I've been the
Yeah.
most excited about all this, more than Love and Thunder, more than Multiverse of Madness, more than any of the ones that have come up. I mean, we've got this coming up, and then we're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy 3 happening. So, there's a lot to look forward to. But right now, Quantumania happening in February, it cannot get here soon enough for me.
No, I mean, we're close. We're really close.
Yep.
I think there was a little bit of sadness, obviously, surrounding Black Panther and wondering how it was going to turn out without Chadwick Boseman. I think there's a lot more anticipation to this because of the way it ties into everything else. Wakanda has been very obviously put off to the side, even before everything with Chadwick Boseman. It's a very contained area. So it doesn't always play into the rest of the story. But this is the center stage. Like, we're gonna start setting the table for the big meals we're gonna eat in this phase, and we gotta see.
Big meals, yum yum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it
I
really
guess I'm
feels
hungry.
like...
I just talked about a salad and now big
Sure.
meals.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever it takes, my friend. It really feels like, though, that this is the year of the movies, as opposed to, like, we've been doing a lot of series, and it feels like this is like phase 5. We're talking about movies, although Loki season 2 is going to tie in, and then, like I said, Guardians. I I feel like they can't get these movies out fast enough for me. I want to see them all.
No, I
I'm
agree.
excited about them. But Marvel Phase 5, I'm looking forward to, because I feel like 4 was a little... I mean, the movies were okay, the shows were okay, but I feel like 4 didn't really take me anywhere. It introduced a ton of characters, or too many characters, for them to bring them all back in. Whatever
Well, I think
happened with
Kang will
Charlize...
take care of some of that.
Okay. Yeah, all right. He'll fix this up nice.
I hope not. I hope we don't lose ones that we want. I do worry about permadeath now, just because it feels like they have to. They have to up the stakes somewhere. Some people have to go away and not come back.
Permadeath. Is that what we mean by, like, what happened to Black Widow and what happened to Aunt May and some of these others?
Yeah.
That, like, they're not coming back.
Yeah. We need a couple of those just to make sure they know it can happen.
Is that an official term, permadeath, or is that something you
that's
made
what
up?
we say in Dungeons and Dragons, like, because you die a lot in the game, but if you're permadead, that's it. You tear up that character sheet and move on.
Okay. I'm learning so much from you, man. And thank you for being here.
I got layers.
Thank you for always giving your insights. Thanks for being a Munchling influencer. Thanks for all the things you do, my friend.
I have a ton in my Shop Disney cart right now. And I need a Figment. I got to get Figment before he's gone, because I missed out on Stitch. Like, I love that Stitch, and
Gingerbread
he's gone
Stitch
now.
Yeah.
Gingerbread Stitch.
All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. We'll see you again either on Deep in the Plaster Park Center. So take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.
You too.
Y'all have a great night. Thank you again for being with us. And again, big shout out to our WIGS members. We appreciate you. Don't forget to go to patreon.com/WDWNT to find out how you can become part of our WDWNT Interglobe Society. And again, thanks for being here with us, and have a great week. We'll see you next time.